Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Hello there. Welcome back.
Well, guys, as always, please subscribe. All three channels have that little bell clicked and check in daily. We have Evolutionary Energy Arts, EEARTS, and Heart's Home. And we're going to start off over here. So it rained in Florida, rained in Fort Lauderdale particularly intensely. As you see, this guy just says, you know what? Shoot, I might as well just take a swim.
Might as well just go while you can.
Oh, yes. It's a wild time in these worlds. This is the airport. No, that's not the beach. That's the airport.
Wow, that is insane.
Yeah, Hollywood International Airport in Fort Lauderdale had to close down. That's the airport. Those are runways. That looks like the movie 2012. Come on, we gotta lift off. The tidal wave's coming.
It does. It really does. Wow.
Yeah, and again, many people are waiting for, that pole shift and everything. And I think there was somebody, was it Maverick Star or was it, what's the other one? Terrell Blackstar. One of those guys, I think, predicted this year for a pole shift, if I remember right. But we get that's not going to happen. In fact, we've remote viewed areas that are only 300 feet above sea level, and very, very humid subtropical, like eastern Texas areas. And 2055, we see it looking just more densely wooded. But otherwise, pretty much the same. Just less people, more nature, more trees, and no great cataclysm. But that doesn't mean cataclysms can't come, and they can't come really fast, because they do, and we do know that in history as well. As you see, all these abandoned cars. This is on Broward Boulevard and Andrews Ave in Fort Lauderdale. Now, you're going to notice there's all these different, it depends on when the person tweeted it, historic rainfall between 14 and 18 inches measured in only the last 12 hours. Well, the biggest number I've seen is 26 inches of rain. 26 inches. They were using school buses for rescues here to rescue and get people out. I studied topographical maps of Florida when I was living in Florida, because I loved Florida. I really did love Florida. I'd say it was a toss-up between Florida and the Low Country, South Carolina, as my favorite spots. Love Charleston, love Savannah and all as well. See this one, 26 inches. Most of that fell in an 8-hour period. Most hurricanes do not produce that type of extreme. So this is really out of the blue. And I've seen, flooding in Venice area, as I've lived in Sarasota. I've lived in six different spots in Florida. And, I have seen this type of condition almost, but not quite this bad, but almost. And it could be a little disconcerting when you know you're 6 to 8 feet over sea level. 6 to 8 feet over sea level at certain points in time is definitely challenging, and can be not a good thing. 25 inches is what AccuWeather is talking about. This was not a 1 in 10 year. This was not a 1 in 100 year. They're saying this might have been a 1 in 1,000 year rain. 1 in 1,000 or more. This is just kind of out of the blue. Everybody's talking about the swimming guy. And semi-unprecedented. But really, anything that's unprecedented, if we truly knew our history, we would know. As you see, Zero Hedge is calling it a once-in-a-millennia rain event. These things do happen. And we were just talking about California before, and how there was a lake that we know was a lake there, basically in the Central Valley area. It was dormant, meaning it dried up. And now it's back. Oh, yeah. Again, when change comes, it can be very, very dramatic. So this is the area that got the worst of it.
Mm-hmm. not good at all. Something like this, I wouldn't be surprised to see in Vegas every couple of years, having the rain and the streets flooded over. And really, Florida isn't doing too bad. It looks like they have some kind of a semblance, regardless of the water. But I think since it probably rains a lot, people are a little more ready for some water. But goodness, this is quite a lot.
Yeah, and El Nino, La Nina conditions are changing. I would expect a more intense hurricane season this year. I would expect, and also just because it's all ramping up anyway. And when you look at the topographical maps now, I was getting one, I forget which the university it was, but when we look at Broward County, for instance, which has a ton of people, look at your elevation. That's 10 feet up in here. 10 feet up in here. You got to go over here to get to be 10 feet off the sea level. It's not a good situation. And if I was staying in Florida, I was actually looking at some of these highland areas inward as being potential homesteads and farms. And, again, still, even there, you're not looking very high above sea level. Like, if we did have a Canary Island event, La Palma, it would not be pleasant. And, could cause, you just don't want to even think about what it could cause, especially on the eastern coast of Florida, which does have more people. But, again, at times when we're in full ice age with full glaciation, the actual peninsula is probably about 70% larger than it is now. So it's much larger, much more land. And again, when they start to melt, then it starts to be issues. But, again, this is something that happens, I think, a lot quicker, a lot more dramatically than what they tell us. And that's, obviously part of uncovering the mysteries. Now, one thing that I discovered in evacuating, because, I had just bought a house in Sarasota in 2017. And then, there was the hurricane that came and we were trying to decide evacuate or not, and then decided to evacuate. It took I think it was 12 to 14 hours to get out of Florida. Now, usually it won't take that long, but it was a parking lot. When you look at it, you have over 20 million people in this state, and you got two ways out, really. You got 95 and 75. And, of course, there's smaller roads, but everything was just backed up. And it would not be a good situation if there was some big cataclysmic event. So geopolitically, Florida's leading the way in many respects. As far as sunshine and nice temperatures, it's great. But you have to be aware of your surroundings. You got to be aware of your surroundings. Bright daylight fireball explodes over Maine. First radar observed meteorite fall in the state. Yeah, that was interesting, wasn't it? Now, they said the fragments only weighed ounces, not even pounds, from what they've recorded. But again, the guides have said that there is some danger from three particular, whatever they are out there, that may be coming in the future.
Mm-hmm. Definitely, I've seen some things coming in and causing a problem, causing a rift, but right now that's not even our focus. We are just trying to keep our heads above water and stay ahead of the situation that's facing us now.
Yeah, keep our heads above water. That's the theme of this particular video. Stunning photos show California super bloom. Unprecedented winter storms see abundance of wildflowers springing up, with officials warning people to stay away. Why? Are the wildflowers going to bite?
Yes.
Well, California's landscape's been transformed into a vibrant display of spring wildflowers following that prolonged rainy winter. Number of atmospheric rivers and powerful storms caused flooding and blizzard conditions. And now it's resulted in a rare super bloom of poppies with rain-fed wildflowers suddenly sprouting in the normally arid desert. Look at how beautiful it is. I mean, that's kind of heavenly, is it not? It's a great picture, you know, the little one taking the pup out, just beautiful.
I know. Let's be afraid of those. Yeah.
So you have a record crowds and traffic jams on rural roads. Everybody's looking and saying, "Holy cow, this is gorgeous." But again, things can change in the drop of a hat. And, you know, for one, the pollen that you might not be used to, that could definitely affect you allergy-wise. But we know that Central Valley area had been filled up at times with water. We've seen Sacramento having to be completely rebuilt on top of the old Sacramento after floods. You know, and as we've shared, yes, absolutely. On our Nevada property, we found sponges and we found coral and we found fossilized clams that, yeah, to me, they look like they could have been a couple hundred years old, but definitely not thousands. So again, you know, one trauma or traumatic event that can displace people can result in beauty and can result in bounty in different ways in slightly different areas. If you have heard of the famous Bimini Road, well, the reality is that when we have full glaciation and there's less seawater, this is actually one big island. It's a very large island. And the culture that made this, and again, science will say, well, this is just, you know, natural erosion. Sure. Tell us another one, guys. We caught on to you. You know, ouch. Oh, there's no chance of getting, well, you know, reduced chance of, well, it was never about that in the first place. You know, everything is always revised. This is the thing we should realize. Everything is always revised when it comes to the power structure. The ones that give us the history, you know, they're dependent on grants. And those that are given the grants want to maintain a certain status quo as far as, you know, what our history is. They don't want us discovering our real history. They really don't. And when we look in the Mahabharata and the legends about Krishna, we discover the ancient city of Dwarka. We've touched on this before. And we found that it is exactly where it was said to have been. And again, the scientists will tell you that these perfect straight lines, well, you know, maybe that's erosion, guys. Yeah. No, nature doesn't do that. No, and it's not even that far underwater. It's right off the coast of India. When we had a period of full glaciation, this would be right on the shoreline as it is depicted up here. Now it's just underwater. This is what we see all over the world. All over the world. 2/3 of the population in the U.S. lives within 100 miles of the coastline. And that's kind of the status quo for most of the places in the world where humanity is. We love the ocean. We love the water. So that's where we gravitate to. Also, you know, in case you haven't noticed, Southern California has a great climate. Well, it's also because of the ocean and the mitigation of the extremes that you get. When you go into the Dakotas, you know, for instance, you could get 40, 50 below, and you could get 110, 115 above. You get wild extremes when you go, you know, far inland. The ocean mitigates those vast extremes. So people want to live in the more comfortable zones where you could grow food more and, you know, more often and be more productive, as well as, you know, fish and take the bounty from the ocean itself. So naturally, people are going to, you know, put themselves around the ocean. And then when big cataclysms come, the people are swamped over or have to mass migrate out of the area. This is what's called, well, now Adam's Bridge, after Adam in the Bible, right? Adam and Eve. It was known as Rama's Bridge. I think it should be called Hanuman's Bridge because he actually did the work with his army of Bigfoot, maybe. Kind of feels like a Bigfoot type creature to me. And depending on who you're talking to, you might get dates of anywhere from 5 to 7,000 years ago, or as you can see here, you might get dates way older than that of when this was built. Now, again, this is exactly where the stories, and again, the guides always say, I hope these stories are of use to you in conceptualizing, certain ideas. As we talk about the Mahabharata, and we also talk about the Ramayana. So the Ramayana contains this story of this bridge being built by what appears to be an army of Bigfoot. No kidding. Seriously. This is really what the story says. And it was all because Rama, who is thought to be the ideal man, the ideal example of a man in many ways, very completely honest to a fault, always trying to do the right thing. And his love was kidnapped by a demonic being whom we would call an asura, who I feel would be also, you could label, somebody that was affiliated with the Anunnaki, so to speak, taken to an island, Lanka, which is today's Sri Lanka. And so they had to make a bridge to get the army over there. And so they used these rocks, some of which are volcanic and floating, to do so. And the remnants are right there, exactly where the story says. We have 10,000-year-old underwater ruins in Japan. And on the southern coast of Yonaguni, Japan, lies submerged ruins estimated to be 10,000 years old. It's hotly debated. This was discovered in 95. And again, you got scientists that say, well, this is probably just a natural rock formation. Look at those lines. I mean, come on, tell us another. I mean, your nose is growing.
I know their favorite line is, trust the science, trust us, please trust us. Now they're starting to beg people, trust us. I really don't think these things are as old as they say. I don't even think they're close to as old as they say. I think they've been around, for a while, but the dating that they give us, it just doesn't even seem real. But if you are creating a story for other people, you're going to kind of do weird things with dates to get people, throw them off.
These locations vary at depths from 100 to only 20 feet under the water. Sure, you're telling me that's natural? Yeah, how stupid do you think we are? They think we're pretty stupid, guys. The reality is most of Florida is under 100 feet. As far as above sea level, most of it's under 100 feet. So it wouldn't take too much for us to be looking at Florida in this way and saying, wow, they'd be telling us certain things were natural. I don't know. That looks like it's got some sort of purpose there. Yeah, this is the Giant's Causeway in Ireland. And again, science will say this is just perfectly natural. Maybe it is. Maybe it is. Maybe it's natural and a little augmented. I don't know. I swear they were selling these hexagonal bricks over at Home Depot last time I walked in, though.
They're sure pretty, for sure.
Yeah, I was thinking about using something like that for a retaining wall. It looks very similar, Yeah. Maybe Home Depot got the idea from the Giant's Causeway over in Ireland as you see this. Again, natural? Well, all right. Yeah, is that bridge still for sale in Brooklyn? As you see this as well, this is in Virginia. And again, they tell us it's natural. I don't know. That looks like somebody made a passageway to me. Unfortunately, rock collapsed on in there. This is in Virginia, by the way. Yeah, I don't know. I'd feel a little bit weird going underneath that. I'd be squished pretty quick if that... Thankfully, you don't get too many earthquakes in Virginia. But, this is a natural rock staircase into the clouds on the Old Rag Trail in Virginia's Blue Ridge Mountains. Absolute beautiful area. Been through there. Natural? I don't think so. This guy doesn't either. He's making this trip to the store. He knows he's got to stock up.
He's looking like he's going to share, maybe.
Absolutely. So share your comments. What do you think about all these unusual natural formations that we find in nature?
Source bless and namaste.
Thanks for your support on Ko-Fi and Patreon, guys. God bless. Namaste.